Oh, it's real. It's damn real. TNA wrestling is coming back in 2024? My first initial reaction was, thought you were dead, LOL. Like, TNA wrestling is still around. And there's no way with the announcement of TNA wrestling making its return in terms of the name in 2024, I had to speak about my favorite TNA wrestling moments, starting with number 10, a Black Snow. Yeah, the day Main Event Mafia took over TNA Impact in January of 2009, the Main Event Mafia who took over the majority of TNA from late 2008 to the majority of 2009 with the storyline of the legends that just wanted what, Booker? Respect. The Main Event Mafia just randomly took over TNA Impact with Kurt Angle playing their producer, Kevin Nash and Chad Lemon and Black Snow playing the commentary team, Scott Steiner being the ring announcer, and Sting just being a wrestler because he was kind of like in and out of the Main Event Mafia, keep teasing that he was in and teasing that he was out, so he had to wrestle. But bro, the highlights for me is definitely Scott Steiner trying to pronounce people's names and just going in on Canada, as well as Booker T, who's playing Black Snow, commentating while he was wrestling, i.e. The Rock when he was a corporate champion. It was just crazy and fun, and it was just entertaining. That's the only thing I can say. It was just straight up entertaining, and definitely one of my favorite moments as a TNA fan. Number 9, Christian's debut. Christian, who in many people's eyes was a main eventer, but was never given the true opportunity to be a main eventer in the WWE. So when Christian left, a lot of us didn't know what was going to happen, but we thought that he would go to TNA, but we weren't sure. And then when he debuted with his Chris Jericho type entrance, with his persona of just acting like a major deal, which he was, the commentary acted like it was a major signing, and the fans were elated. Like, this was crazy. Christian eventually would become a world champion in TNA, in the WA world champion, and just the debut, it felt like things were about to change. It felt like a change was going to come with Christian going to TNA, and so for sure, TNA getting Christian in his debut for sure was one of the major moments of me being a TNA fan, because I felt like a war was coming. Number 8, I'm an asshole, and Mr. Anderson. Now, there was a time where I was a major Mr. Kennedy fan, and unfortunately, due to injuries and politics, he didn't quite reach the heights that I wanted him to in WWE. Then he goes to TNA, and he basically does what he should have did in the WWE. He still was injury prone, but he at least got moments as a world champion. At least got moments as being a top guy. And one of my favorite promos ever at TNA, maybe my favorite, was the thank God, I'm an asshole. I don't know why, but that will forever be one of my favorite promos. It's something that I even say to myself when I'm doing just random things in the world. For some reason, I cannot not say, thank God I'm an asshole. It was a perfect promo. It's an infamous promo by Mr. Anderson. Number 7, Bound for Glory, Samoa Joe versus Sting in Chicago. So for me, Samoa Joe and Sting was somewhat of a dream match. It's a match that we never truly got. Samoa Joe, who was a champion at the time, Sting, who at this particular time was kind of like Mr. October. He main evented now 3 straight Bound for Glories, which was the flagship event there at WrestleMania in TNA. And I really wanted to see what they were going to do here. telling the story of Sting just wanting respect from the young guys, and Samoa Joe, who was very arrogant and has an attitude, not giving Sting the respect that he believed he deserved. And so they wound up in the main event of Bound for Glory 4 having an all-out fight. They fight in the ring. They fight it through the crowd. Samoa Joe almost ended his career flying through the crowd with a crazy kick to Sting and dropping onto some stairs. Like, this was insane. Like, it felt like an Attitude Era type of style of match to where both guys felt like the good guy. And Samoa Joe was hyped up, amped up. Sting was hyped up, amped up. Both trading moves, getting up from the moves immediately. Like, oh my God. There was only like maybe at best 12 minutes, 13 minutes, but they did everything within the time they got. And by far is one of my favorite, not only Bound for Glory matches, but one of my favorite matches of all time, even with the screwy finish at the end. Just Samoa Joe and Sting gave it their all in that main event of Bound for Glory back in 2008. Number 6, the infamous January 4th Monday Night Impact. So, for those who don't know, I became a wrestling fan on January 4th, around that time, thanks to The Rock and Mick Foley with the infamous match where Mick Foley won the WWF World Title. And I was never a WCW guy. I was never an ECW guy. So meaning I did not care about the Monday Night Wars because for me, there wasn't really a war. It was WWF or nothing. So I never got to truly experience going back and forth, watching a show with the other show on. I mean, I would flip maybe to WCW every now and then, but I didn't really care for it. But this was the first time to where I could truly experience what it was like to be in the Attitude Era and flipping through channels with the WWE and Raw and the TNA Impact show being on at the same time. So for me, it was just that excitement. We didn't know what was going to happen. TNA tried their best to do just a lot of shocking debuts and returns, from Jeff Hardy to Hulk Hogan to the NWO trying to get back together, from Orlando Jordan, from Ric Flair. You had AJ Styles and Kurt Angle in the main event of that night. And it just felt special, even though down the line it would kind of hurt them. But in the moment, it felt special. It felt like something new. It felt like we were truly about to get a war between TNA and WWE, even though we never truly got it. But at this time, January 4th, Monday Night Impact might be one of the most exciting times to be a TNA fan. Brother. Number 5, Hardy versus Hardy Final Deletion. Now, I was not watching TNA at the time. However, I kept hearing time and time again about this crazy match between Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy. And for those that don't know, back in 2007, 2008, I was a hardcore Hardy fan. So much so that when Matt Hardy had his Matt Hardy show, which turned into the Hardy Show around this time in 2006, 2007, 2008, I was a member. I got all my little money from my little job I had and my allowance, and I used that to be a member of the Hardy Show. And the Hardys were some crazy son bitches. They would fight. They were having crazy fights in the house, outside the house, in highways. They would do crazy skits. Like, I was a Hardy fan for real, for real. So when I heard about them doing this Final Deletion, I had to go see it for myself. And when I say either you get it or you don't, you remember that Super Bowl commercial with WF in 99? Get it? Either you get it or you don't. For me, I can't explain how much of a joy I got watching just the stupid, just insane, illogical, just craziness of this match between Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy. And thankfully, Matt Hardy decided to do this, whatever persona he was doing with King Maxwell and Senor Benjamin and Deletion, whatever he was doing. Like, man, I have to put Matt Hardy versus Jeff Hardy, Hardy versus Hardy, the final deletion in this top TNA moments. And Jeff Hardy did a swan time off a big symbol through flames. Like, it just, bruh, I don't, yeah. Oh, I'm Team Extreme for sure. For sure. Number 4, Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe 1, Genesis 2006. Now, there are a lot of matches that I could go to in terms of what are the top 5 matches in TNA history. And for me, one of them is Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe, the very first match they had. Kurt Angle, who just debuted in TNA a couple weeks ago. Samoa Joe, who was undefeated for 18 months. This felt like a clash of the Titans. I got goosebumps. I got anxious, nervous watching this match because I did not know what was going to happen. You got to realize that for many people, Kurt Angle was the best wrestler in the world, as well as for many people, Samoa Joe was the best wrestler in the world. So now we're going to see a dream match that we probably thought we'd never see between these two in TNA, nonetheless. And when I say these guys did everything you would expect and more, they for sure did that. I mean, just the match they had, it felt real. Like, it felt real. Like, that's the only way I could put it. Like, it didn't feel like they were having a pro wrestling match. It just felt like they were having a real fight that just happened to turn into a wrestling match with the trading of the submissions to the counters of the counters to being physical to being having attitudes and not liking each other. They have respect for each other, but they want to kill each other. Like, this is what wrestling is supposed to be. So, when Kurt Angle tapped out Samoa Joe, who submitted for maybe one of the only times in his entire career up to this point, Kurt Angle submitted Samoa Joe and defeated Samoa Joe, giving Samoa Joe his first loss in TNA. This was a major deal. And there's no way I could do this list while having Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe on here. And spoiler alert, you might be seeing them two again. Number 3, AJ Styles wins the world title at No Surrender 2009. So by this particular time, I was getting kind of concerned because AJ, in my eyes, should have been the guy that they should have built the company around. Like, I never understood how you have a guy like AJ Styles who, for all the wrestling fans, for the video gamers who did all the creative players and calls and all that, everybody created a person when playing video games as AJ Styles because AJ Styles could do video game moves in real life. Like, AJ Styles was one of a kind. Shout out to RVD. AJ Styles was truly one of a kind to where he was just doing crazy, innovative moves that we've never seen before. And for some reason, time after time, especially from like 06 to 07, 08, they treated AJ Styles like a side character, like a sidekick, like a mascot to your Kurt Angles or your Christian Cages. And for me, AJ Styles deserved more. He deserved to be the centerpiece of the company. He deserved to be the world champion, which we have not seen up to this point in late 2009 since Sacrifice 2005. That was the spring of 2005. So we're talking almost 4.5 years since AJ Styles has been a world champion. But now he got to compete for it in a fatal 4-way, which turned into a fatal 5-way match at No Surrender. And he won the title, and it felt like, oh my God, finally, in my rock voice, finally, AJ Styles has won the world title. And now we're only one one stop away from the biggest show of the year in Bound for Glory, which is almost certain that we're going to get AJ Styles in the main event of Bound for Glory, which I don't think he's done at this point either. So now it's like, oh my God, finally TNA has come to their senses. They put the world title on AJ. He's going to main event the big show of the year. It's like, it's just a sigh of relief, excitement, happiness, anxiousness, everything in between. I had all the feels. So yeah, AJ Styles winning the title was a big deal for me. Number 2, Kurt Angle debuts. Kurt Angle debuting at TNA felt like and was a game changer for TNA. Kurt Angle was an Olympic gold medalist. He was a multi-time world champion. He was, in many people's eyes, the best wrestler in the world. He made, with one move of going over to TNA, he made TNA feel legitimate. With all due respect to the other guys that was in the locker room and on the roster, Kurt Angle was the one guy that truly felt like a real main eventer, top talent, that was him. That was truly the guy. And trust and believe, within a year's time, they would make Kurt Angle the guy and build TNA around him for the next 3 to 4 years. So I had to put Kurt Angle's debut on TNA, especially the Impact, his Impact debut with Samoa Joe and the confrontation they had. That's probably the loudest the TNA crowd has ever been. And one of the most exciting times to ever be a TNA fan is when Kurt Angle hit that headbutt and that angle slam on Samoa Joe. Bruh, you had to be there. You just had to be there. Oh, it's true. It's damn true. But now on to my number one TNA wrestling moment. It has to be Lockdown 2008. Samoa Joe, the challenger, Kurt Angle, the champion for the TNA World Championship. And this felt like a big fight in UFC, from the entrances to the commentary to what Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle were wearing. This is what made TNA a true alternative. We're talking about professional wrestling. This was what TNA was supposed to be about, and this is TNA at its height. Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, TNA World Championship. These guys were trying to kill each other. Not only that, but put it on a great wrestling match of submissions and counters and counters and counters, and told a great story, which in the end, finally, Samoa Joe, after 4 years of being at TNA, finally won the world title and defeated Kurt Angle. Like, this is the absolute height of my TNA fandom, and Samoa Joe win that world title in an all-time great match versus Kurt Angle, one of the best ever, in Lockdown, in a steel cage, in a match that we'll probably never ever get again. Like, we'll never get a type of match like this ever again. So, yeah, Lockdown 2008. Lockdown 2008 for sure is my favorite, not only main event, but my favorite match in TNA history, with Samoa Joe finally defeating Kurt Angle for that world title. And those are my top 10 moments as a TNA wrestling fan. Let me know your top moments as a TNA wrestling fan. Again, TNA is back in early 2024. Let's see what they do in name. Impact has been around, but in name, the name of TNA is back. This Hayes Arcade, your hardcore casual fan. Welcome to the high, bitch. Like, comment, subscribe, share, all the things are the things. And if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you. Suck it.
I'm the best. I'm the best in the world.